Here with the trusty flight crew, Eric Larson and Dieter Staudinger. Oh, thank you. Welcome again to Fearless Flight Live. Once again, this is our show to help anybody who has an active fear of flying, who knows somebody that might be afraid to fly, or just likes to keep up with the airline industry in some regard. And so we're back again tonight. We've got a special guest. Let me put this up. I'll share my screen and kind of highlight for you. So, and of course, we always remind you of checking in or checking out our Facebook group if you have not already. 1,500 people and climbing. FLF.link BOF. It's our Birds of a Feather group, and we're gonna that comment was in Birds of a Feather, wasn't it? The one we were talking about, Dieter, just a minute ago. Okay, so we're gonna take you over there tonight, and you'll see one of the things there. Somebody put something of interest in there. We have a special guest, Sumi Esperanza, who just flew this past week and did a marvelous job. So we're going to let her talk about her experiences. These are just a reminder. We have the Clear for Takeoff 301 graduation flight coming up in Burbank on February 24th. You can still jump in if you choose. And of course, we always recommend that you join us in the Clear for Takeoff 201 live monthly group coaching webinar coming up next week on February 15th, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, and Dieter will put the links in there. Also, if you have not and you want to do so, please sign up for a 15-minute coaching session. I've had quite a few lately, and I love it. Just keeps me engaged with you all and lets me know what's going on out there. And we're now doing EMDR for anybody who wants to during the 60-minute coaching session. So I'll touch on that just a bit as we talk to Sumi later on tonight. And then we got an update on the Alaska Air door plug issue and your questions and comments. So if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, please leave us comments there and let us know how we're doing and what you'd like to see more of. Okay. The theme, or at least the underlying theme for the monthly live group coaching webinar is, I know it's safe to fly logically, said by many people. Why is it then that I freak out when I just thinking about flying with anticipatory anxiety? And that's what we're going to talk about. And as it relates to the monthly coaching webinar, more and more people are joining that. I think it's probably one of the best things that we offer, and especially if you don't know what else to do, or you're doing better and you need the support. It's just a great place to do that. And this is the title of our of the upcoming session: Understanding Flight Anxiety When Logic and Emotion Collide. And that's really what's there. We do have two special guests. One will be Arnold Barnett. He was on the show last week, and we will have him. He's agreed to come back and add a little bit more detail on some of the things that he was talking about. He has the latest on fear flying statistics and how you wouldn't believe. He's got some absolutely unbelievable numbers on how he has one statistic. If we had the same rate of accidents for the number of flights that we did 30 years ago, it would be extraordinary today. You wouldn't believe how many there are. So tune in for that as well. And our guest tonight has agreed to come back and field questions on Thursday as well. So speaking of guests, do we have any questions that we need to answer before we get into this, Dieter?
No, not yet.
Okay, so here is our lovely guest, and I do mean lovely, Sumi Esperanza, and she graciously agreed to do a little debrief with me, because I love to hear how you all do and what was your experience, regardless of whether it was positive or not. And And a shout out to Sherry, who's flying Thursday. She's going to fly from Connecticut down here to Arizona for a retreat. And Kristen, with an E, is coming or is flying. Tomorrow. She's going from Cleveland, Ohio, up to Canada. And so we'll do a shout out for them and tell them that we're thinking about them. Okay. All right. So here's a little video that we made out of our debrief with Sumi here. Take a look.
I can't believe it took me this long and that fear took that much of my life. You know, I thought, watching other people, I honestly thought, no, they're not as bad as me. Like, I have it bad. Like, no, my teeth the worst out of all of theirs. That's how I felt with every single person that conquered this fear. Was I felt like, no, mine is worse than theirs. Like, I have not lied. Like, but here I am. I did it. Yes. I talked to the flight attendant as well. Let her know. I just let her know that I had, I was anxious. I haven't flown in over 15 years. And she was super nice. I was definitely anxious, but I was a lot calmer. Again, calmer than what I expected. I thought I felt kind of anxiety kind of creeping up.
Sure.
But it went away. It just like, it didn't go full. It didn't happen completely. And I just kind of accepted it. And I just said kind of like, okay, just let it pass. And it just stopped. Like, it just went up my body. Because usually I'll feel that tingling sensation. Yep. I felt it in my toes. It went up. And I felt it in my hands. And then it just disappeared. And thank goodness I had the eye mask on. And I was just in tears. Not because I was scared. But just the emotions, right? Like, being thankful that I was here, being thankful for the overwhelming of peace. For me, I felt like God's presence too. So I think that had a lot to do with it, like him helping me through this. The feelings, like all the feelings that I got when I used to enjoy to fly, it all came back. Like, I remember all these feelings and I love this feeling. And just to have that again and not be afraid and enjoy the whole process and enjoy flying again, it was an amazing thing. I was like, wow, I thought I would never get here. Yeah, it was nothing compared to what I was expecting. Like, I just expected, thinking about before, I expected the worst. But getting prepared and your course and friends and all the support that I had, it just brought me to the point of there's no going back. I scheduled my life around my fear. Sure. And it was like you're a slave to your fears. It was now.
Ron, if you can hear me, the audio is bad. Okay, now I can't hear you. All right, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very happy. This went on for a minute or so. We can't hear you. Eric?
Yeah, I got you 5x5, Dieter, and I know what you're talking about. And Sumi sent a message in that she was getting that. I was getting ready to rip one of my speakers out of the case. I thought it was coming out that I wasn't going to come back if I couldn't kill that side tone. I mean, it was loud.
Thanks, Marsha, by the way, for helping. And Deborah, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe just if it's an urgent thing, to get an appointment with Captain Ron, then maybe just reach out to Captain Ron at FearlessFlight.com. And because I know Ron will be traveling to be flying with VIP coaching students today. I mean, this week. So that's why probably there's a little less availability than usual. While Ron is on his interesting you muted.
You're muted, Ron. Muted.
Still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You're back.
Okay. Yep. Who knows? We played the video and everything beforehand. Absolutely no indications that we would have that problem. So, unfortunately, yeah, that's one of our best things here. Okay.
Well, we do have Sumi here live, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
So
I'll put the video in the link.
Yeah.
In the
So the video was just a total waste, huh?
Yeah, for a good minute and a half, or at least it felt like hours.
Okay. Well, we'll welcome Sumi back in live. Live is always better than video, and we're glad to have her here tonight. So Sumi, if you want to rejoin us here, and we'll get your twist. That's we'd rather talk to the
pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm so sorry for that because I had no indication here, which is that's typical of Zoom, and we're grateful for that. So anyway, just briefly, what was your journey like to do this? How long ago did you start? And we know it ended last Wednesday, kind of. So
Oh, can't believe it's been almost a week already. It doesn't feel like it.
and a week ago last night, when we were doing the EMDR session,
Right?
I know. Moving, and we wouldn't. I mean, it would be interesting to see what people's reaction when you're going through that, because what comes up, and it's not all related to flying. And we always say that fear flying isn't about airplanes and stuff. It's about what's going on underneath there. So anyway, what was anything more helpful than anything else? When you were doing this.
I can't really say. I think it's just a combination of everything that I went through, everything that, the classes, just, going to Phoenix and meeting you and getting on the plane as well, and having a little bit more of exposure therapy, because before I had not been at the airport either for 15 years. So everything was just so new, and and just listening, and also just following the Facebook and reading everyone's comments about how just getting little tips here and there, what everyone else was doing to help with their anxiety or flying.
You made a statement in the video, but there's no going back. And that's what I wanted to emphasize for everybody, how you did not quit. You just kept looking for opportunities and
I was just tired. I was just tired of being scared. I mean, I felt like I was wasting my life, just not being able to do the things that I really wanted to do with friends, with family and friends, and just missing out on so much opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So I just said, 2024 was going to be my year of facing my fear. But the journey started probably when I really started seeking was probably last year, September. I think I
Mhm.
found you before that, but just being more involved with the course and the meetings and stuff. Just
Yeah,
push.
you were very active in your own
Right,
education.
yeah, and that's the thing is we have,
Yeah.
I think, to face the fears and to accomplish what you want to accomplish with this, you have to, like what you said, you have to do the work, right?
Yeah. And you made another statement in there. It says, my life revolved around my fear. What
Mhm.
one or two examples of that, if you can give them?
Everything, I mean, everything that, I mean, even when it came down, because, my fear is more of claustrophobia, right? We
Mhm.
talked about that.
Right. Right.
And I
And
would,
for those people listening, it's kind of like claustrophobia, but it's more specifically related to the fear of being unable to get out or pull off to the side of the road if you're in a car or something like that. It's just that
oh,
you can't get out of that thing.
right. So I would have to just be extra prepared for everything. I mean, I would do a lot of research. Um,
Hmm.
and also stuff like I wouldn't want to be, because elevators really bug me too because I felt stuck.
Uh-huh.
So I would make sure to, book my room on the first or second floor, and having to take the stairs if it was
Yeah.
further up, and just having to always research things, just to be prepared, I guess.
Have you
Um,
had a chance to measure those things, elevators or anything since you've flown?
right. Yeah. Definitely not. I mean, I don't think so much about getting stuck anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, going to the airport, I had to take the elevator. And
Yeah.
usually I'm always thinking, okay, what if I get stuck? What am I going to do? Just all these negative thoughts, right? But now
Yeah.
just going into an elevator, I don't have those thoughts as much as I did. And I don't, for whatever reason, I don't get as anxious. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is exposure therapy is
Hmm.
doing it, right? No
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
how much I don't want to do it, I have to force myself. And also, before I would ask the front desk staff, um, to be on the first or second floor. But now I don't ask him anymore. I just
Uh-huh.
allow
Uh-huh.
it myself. I just allow it to be what it is. If I'm on
Yeah.
the fifth floor, I'm okay. If I'm on the sixth floor, I'm okay. Just whatever floor they put me on is the floor that I will be on, and I have to force myself to do it.
Yeah.
So
And we did the last thing that we did formally was the EMDR session the Monday night before the Wednesday last week that you flew. And we've been talking about that in the last month. We did the coaching session or the last webinar last month about that. We'll touch on it again this month. And I just wanted to highlight for people EMDR. You didn't see any magic in it, did you? I mean, or in the sense of
no,
woo, we're making you feel weird or anything like that.
no, I was kind of worried because
Yeah.
no, just the I didn't know if I was gonna get hypnotized, and I
Let me
was
let me respond to that
concerned.
because that's the thing. So what's the underlying fear for anybody who's got a fear of flying? It's control, right?
Right.
So I've got a client that I'm going to fly out to the east tomorrow, and one of his biggest concerns is he said, "Well, can't we just talk and not do the EMDR?" But EMDR is talking with just a little bit of bilateral stimulation, which is just
Mhm.
moving your eyes or you're listening through each ear. And just,
Right.
in a nutshell, EMDR uses bilateral stimulation. That's the left when it talks to both the left and the right hemispheres of your brain to mimic the way the brain processes daily activity during rapid eye movement sleep. And
Mhm.
memories form neural networks in the brain, and those neural networks can lead to reprocessing of unresolved trauma. So it's in a nutshell. And it's not magical. It's not mysterious. And I certainly, if I was trying to hypnotize you, I did a terrible job, or take control of your mind because you
Right,
didn't.
yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
know if you were gonna try to, exactly, take control of my mind. Because again, it's the control issue, right? It's the fear of
Yeah,
losing control and not
absolutely.
having control of the situation. So that was, what I was kind of hesitant about for
Yeah,
during the EMDR. But you reassured me exactly what you said. It wasn't anything
yeah,
like, yeah, and it went great. I mean, it was nothing like what I
yeah,
expected. And I'm thinking, because it happened the day prior to my first flight,
yeah,
I'm thinking that it helped a lot, right? I
yeah.
mean,
You're a more typical result of what happens when that
mhm,
and when you're happening there you part of the process is you do notice oftentimes a reduction in the target memory and the feelings around that, but it's not like you walk away you feel like a new person
right.
necessarily. And that's the thing. It's very subtle, and people then report back to me that gosh, I just don't feel that edge that I did before.
Mhm.
That's the most common thing. Let me ask you this, Sumi, and then we'll close it up here. Looking back, what would you say to your past self who was still grappling with fear of flying? Okay, what would you tell her?
I would tell her, just do it.
Just
Just,
do it.
yeah, make the decision, and you will accomplish, you will make it through. Yeah. And don't give up. Don't give
Yeah.
up.
And
Yeah.
and and when we were debriefing last week, one of the things you said was, I think you uttered the words that so many people do, and that is, "Gosh, I can't believe I waited this long."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then the other thing that you said was, I ask you specifically, how bad did you, when you watched other people come on the show like you're on tonight, and they would say, whatever they say, and would you also feel, like, well, they didn't really have it as bad as I did. So was
Exactly.
that true for you?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I just felt like my situation was the worst situation, just
Yeah,
because I had so many other fears besides the fear of flying.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I was like, oh, my situation is a lot worse than theirs. Like, there's no way that I can get through this. There's no way
uh-huh,
that I can beat this. There's no way that I can uh, conquer this fear like they did, because my situation is a lot worse. My fear is a lot worse than everyone else's.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations again. You're
Thank
such a delightful
you.
person. You're just a pure delight to
Oh.
talk to and be around, without a doubt. And any other parting words for anybody out there who
I
can't figure out what to do, or
just don't stop.
yeah,
Don't quit.
yeah,
Just keep going, and you will be here in my shoes, and you will be so proud of yourself. And there's so much out there. There's so much to experience. So I would say, yeah, just, and do the work on your end. You have to
yeah,
do the
yeah,
work, because you can't. That was my problem, I guess, before, was I never like put the effort to
yeah.
put the
But
work
but it's
in.
hard to, when you don't know what to do. It's hard.
Exactly. That was the biggest thing, was not
Yeah,
knowing who to go to. I saw therapists, but they weren't specialized in stuff like
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Or courses, I never, I guess, I went to seek therapists, but not
yeah,
courses, because I didn't
yeah.
know that there was courses out there for fear of
Uh-huh.
flying. So yeah, I just went out to seek therapists, and I just never got to where I needed to be to help me fly again. So yeah, I would just say, just keep doing, just don't give up, and you're going to fly one day. You're going to do it, and you're going to be so happy. It's the most amazing feeling, to be able to conquer your fears, and to be up in the airplane again,
Yeah.
and to enjoy flying again. So
Well, I remember meeting you for a 15-minute coaching session, and you took over, and it was all downhill from there, in terms of progress. So anyway, thanks again.
thank
Congratulations.
you.
And we're going to talk about just a couple of things on the way out. You can stay on and listen to us if you'd like.
Mhm.
And
I will.
yeah, and again, thanks. And we're going to keep checking back with you to see. Oh, one thing you told me that you didn't mention tonight. How many flights are you looking at making in the next year?
I have booked one flight every month somewhere. I'm doing 2 more practice flights.
Uh-huh.
And then I have a longer flight to Texas in March. So I'm a little anxious because I think from Las Vegas, it's about 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little anxious about that, but I think, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that keep you
Yes,
connected and check in with us. So
yes,
anyway,
thank
yeah,
you.
15-minute coaching call and tuning into the coaching webinars every month. If you don't know what to do, those are the 2 things that I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely come and talk to
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely come and talk to you.
And
Yes.
especially
So-
with all
Great.
the meditations that we have in the Fearless Flyer Club. Like
Mhm.
those are absolutely amazing to just immerse yourself into it.
Mhm. Yeah, I would listen to the courses. I mean, when I was at the gym, I was walking, I would listen to all the courses and also the harmonizer. I got the harmonizer. So every night I would listen to that as well. I think I started listening to it a month prior to
Uh-huh.
flight. So every night.
That's what we say. 3 to 4 weeks before your flight, you start
Yeah,
listening
at
to
first
that.
it was a little weird. I didn't know what
It's
I was
totally weird.
expecting, but it wasn't what I was expecting. But
Yeah.
then I kept falling asleep towards the middle of it. So I never caught like all
Yeah.
the
And we do use bilateral stimulation in the harmonizer,
Yes,
audio stimulation
So,
too. So
yeah,
any questions from anybody, Dieter?
Well, the number one,
Or accolades?
a couple of, yes, that absolutely, lots of hearts. But also, there's other people that also feel around elevators, the similar kind of feelings that you described. And I just wanted to kind of like use a statement that was in one of the comments there. Most of us judge ourselves to be lazy when we don't do the work, but and that's probably my therapist background. I'm gonna say there is no point that we start work if we don't believe that it's gonna get us anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you actually, Sumi, is when in this whole thing would you say that you actually started to believe that you could do it? Like, did you remember a specific moment or where in the journey?
Yeah, it was more so for me, I'm Christian. And I think it was more so back in October. I specifically remember my friend, she had asked me a question about if you have so much faith, why do you have fear? She meant if you have so much faith in God, why do you allow this fear to overcome you? Why? Because where there's faith, there's no room for fear. So that was the turning moment where I was like, yes. And that was, a month before my birthday. I was like, that's so true. So that was like the turning moment for me where I needed to take action, and
Yeah.
I was,
I always with my mom, she would have moments of that, and I would remind her that she used to tell me that God helps those who help themselves. So it is a participant sport,
Right.
You have to do
And
some
God
work.
gave me, he allowed me to bring all these resources and allowed me to find you guys and I mean that was the turning point for me was back in I think it was October was when she put that thought in my head and I felt really convicted, right? I was thinking that's so true. If I had this faith, why? And I needed to take action from there. Like I knew I needed to take action. And that's when I was telling myself, you need to do this. You need to do this. And, it's funny because everything was within reach for me. Phoenix isn't too far of a drive. So thankfully, Captain Ron, you weren't too far. I mean, there were flights that were like, round trips for only $50. So I couldn't use the, excuse, I can't afford to fly because it was only $50 for a round trip to LA. So yeah, I mean, I had to take action. Yes.
And
no excuse.
And you did what we recommend. If you can't fly with us, you don't live in the right place or whatever.
Right.
We'll help you build a plan like in you. And we didn't emphasize that much, but you got support. you went out and you created the flights, and you said, okay, I'm going to go from Vegas to LAX and down and back,
Right.
and you did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if again, another thing that you emphasized in the interview before was that you went down there, and I'm always curious to see if the effort and the anxiety coming back is the same. And what would you say to that? If where people,
No, it
yeah,
was so easy. Yeah, the
yeah,
hardest part is getting on the initial flight for me.
yeah,
Was getting on, and even with that, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Again, I mean, your brain and your mind is always telling. I think it's telling yourself it's bad. It's going to be bad. You're going to be stuck. All these negative thoughts. So you always think the worst of the situation, I guess.
mm-hmm.
But, with the courses and stuff, like I said, you had said, or somebody had said, change your story. I think it was one of the lists,
Yeah,
change
it's we
story. Don't put these negative things in your head. Think of the positive things. So yeah. So it was just,
let
it
me
was
make
so much
reference to
easier. It was so much
so,
easier coming back. It was just, yeah, this is nothing. This is
yeah,
nothing.
Dieter, can you confirm that I put this thing list of negative and positive cognitions? I put that in the chat.
It
So
came out.
people-
Yes, I see
Okay.
the PDF. Yeah.
So people can download that, because one of the things that we're talking about is how we come up. Dieter was mentioning how we come up with negative. They're called negative cognitions. So we have we struggle sometimes day to day, and we these are the things that we fall back on. I'm shameful. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I can't be trusted. I can't trust myself. I'm a failure. I'm powerless. I can't do this. And all of those things, that's what you may recall. Some of those creep out when we do EMDR, and because you're in a posture where you're less guarded about catching those things, and we realize those are going on. We rehearse those things constantly, and we don't
60,000
really.
thoughts a day.
Yeah, exactly. So we match those, we use those, we fix them, and then we have positive cognitions that we install with EMDR. So, okay. And as I said, before Eric falls asleep there, the best part for us, if we had been on this flight, was we get to sleep on the way back. Nobody needs anything.
I've sucked a lot of people that weren't going to get on the airplane to start with into taking a really good power nap on the way back. And
I think I dozed off a little bit on the way back. And
yeah.
It's not.
Had we been there, and not sleeping, we would have captured that on video and blackmailed you with it. That's the kind of people.
And Sumi, I got to say, despite that ripping side tone at an inappropriate time, and I was just about to yank wires out of
Yeah, that was so bad.
but your dance in the parking
Oh,
Yeah, that doesn't require video or audio.
that was just an expression of pure joy, and everybody will know that that's real.
I just wanted to scream at the top of my lungs and dance. And I mean, like I was telling Captain Ron, it was besides my children being born, it was honestly one of the best days of my life to be able to do this, because it took so much of my life just to be able to be free from this fear. And I know I have to continually work on it. It's not something that, I'm sure there's going to be good flights and bad flights, but in that moment I just felt like, yeah, it was just amazing. I just want to dance. I wanted to yell and scream. And yeah, I mean, I did all of that and skip.
Yeah. But you have a
I
process.
didn't record that part.
Yeah, you have a process now, and that's what this is about. It's about finding a process for yourself, and then noting it, and then being able to reenact it in the future. So again, congratulations, Sumi.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
wonderful to meet
everyone.
you and
You
talk
guys
with
are
you.
all amazing. I mean, it's just such a great support group, and everyone here, and just the Facebook group, and the people that I've met during the monthly webinars as well. So I mean, just get involved. That's the biggest thing, is get involved, and talk to everyone here, and because then it's not like you're not in the background. You're actually building relationships and building connections, and knowing that everyone, that you're real. I'm like, oh my gosh, Captain Ron is a real person. Being able to meet.
Some people would dispute that, but generally, yes. And
I mean, it just makes a big difference when you're making that connection with people, right? So
yeah,
and getting that support.
You're a member of the Birds of a Feather group too, right? Correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is again say thank you for coming on and being so vulnerable with us. And I'd like to transition to that we're just going to look at the Birds of a Feather group. A specific thing showed up. I forget who it was, but she brought up if you want to share the screen, Dieter.
Yeah, so I wanna two things. First of all, thank you, Sumi. Second of all, Deborah, we will be talking about the Maxes, promise. But something came up that really caught my eye there, and let me just try and pull this up. Now because now all I see is our Facebook live feed. So just give me 1 second. There we go. And that was a post about a website called Turbly. Do you guys see?
Now, there it is. It just popped up. Okay.
Sorry, do you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So, and it's just like I have a huge fear of turbulence, and I was joking before, but because I called it, that's like the crack for people who are afraid of turbulence, is that website called turbly.com. And basically, you can go there and you can type in your flight number. It has to be either today or the next day. And then Turbly spits out something that looks super, I'm going to say, credible, and how it's going to be. Basically, they give you a turbulence chart, and ranging from light to strong, and where on your flight you're going to be encountering this turbulence. And of course, the flight that Chrissy looked up had strong turbulence, and it says brief loss of aircraft control. So I'm just going to hand that over to you, Eric. So
let me throw out a couple of questions, Eric. Okay. So how far out does that forecast, Eric?
Dieter had said it
36 hours.
36.
Yeah, right. A day and a half. Okay. And how useful would that be to us flying the airplane, Eric?
Worthless. Totally worthless.
Worthless. Okay. If you were planning to go to Europe, Eric, how useful would that be if you've been planning for 3 months or at least to get your trip, and then tomorrow you look and you see an unacceptable level of turbulence? Would you change your trip?
That kind of window, I wouldn't even be looking at that.
No.
There's no way.
And
as we were talking about earlier, there's a canned flight plan loaded in there. But if that was reality, Ron and I or the pilots would look at it and go, "Oh, we're not going to go that way. We're going to go a different way. No way."
Yeah.
And
our information's in real time.
Yeah,
in real time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And when you look at those graphs, Eric, what do they mean anything to you?
I didn't read the axis on the graph.
No, I mean they go from light to mirror to moderate. Have you ever? I mean, when you're in it, do you get the book out and say, "Oh, this must be"? No.
No, I don't know how you guys think they would come up with that.
Right, and I'm not trying to laugh at anybody about this. I'm just saying, here's the difference. Your focus is not about the turbulence. Your focus is about dealing with how you deal with turbulence, how you deal with anxiety, how you deal with feeling trapped once you go in there. And I guarantee you, 99.9% of you, it's not related to anything in the current day about flying, although those are the triggers, no question about it. It's about something that happened to you in a prior time. Memory networks are so complex. They get activated like a pinball machine. Watching that ball come down, you never know where it's going to go. And EMDR is one of the ways that you can actually get the pinball machine working without having to be either getting on the airplane or in turbulence or things like that. You can actually activate those memories in a controlled set of circumstances, which is what Sumi did. Sumi and I did the other night, and you can work on them simply by doing bilateral stimulation, which can be just watching a blue dot go back and forth. It's mystical. It's not magic. You won't walk away, pretending you're a chicken. I promise we won't do that. But you will find in your life, in a very short order, you'll find a reduction. You'll feel less likely to be on the edge, and that's what it's about. So yeah.
And if you have a flight coming up and you can't get a call with Ron, I highly recommend that you get the Fearless Flight Kit, which has the harmonizer in it, because that is where we actually use, you know, some of that technology exactly to that result. And while Sumi had, you know, a month to listen to it, even if you have just a couple of days and you put this on every day and you listen to it multiple times, and I'm actually speaking to Sharon here, who basically is afraid that, well, she doesn't know that it's okay to fly through clouds. And I'm going to hand that over to you, Eric. So Sharon said, will pilots fly through clouds? You know, and the background is storm clouds, I would imagine, but because there's a difference, right? You guys do fly through clouds, but certain clouds, not so much. And
we're like the chicken. We only fly through clouds to get to the other side. So
I can't unthink the Far Side cartoon of these two clouds talking to each other.
Far Side is Gary Larson. He used to write all these bizarre jokes or cartoons.
And the airplane goes punching through one of the clouds, and the cloud says to his buddy, he goes, geez, that makes me queasy when they do that.
Reverse, yeah, he would do that. He would do that. So how do we know, Eric, whether the cloud has a rock in it or not, so to speak?
We can see, in general, our closest in detector is radar, which reflects off of moisture. And the theory that works is the more moisture the cloud can hold up, and the returns, the tougher the updrafts and downdrafts are going to be. And the radar will color code those green, yellow, and red. And now, that being said, the stratus cloud that can be exceedingly smooth, like sitting in a parked car, can paint almost solid red with an incredible amount of moisture in it. But we're only concerned with convective activity, developing, mature, and I forget what we use it for, when the dissipating thunderstorms. We're only worried about the convective part. Stratus clouds, cirrus clouds, that kind of thing, doesn't matter. The ride will be real good, and we're not concerned with that.
I just did a coaching session with Christy with an E. Kristen with an E this afternoon, who's flying to Canada, and one of her triggers is clouds. She sees clouds, she thinks turbulence. And I point out to her, generally speaking, in the winter, the kinds of clouds that we see in the winter with snow and other times of year with just steady rain like we're having here in Phoenix right now, don't produce the kind of turbulence that thunderstorms, the prettier they are, the big billowy they are, the bumpier they are. Okay, so that's one kind of turbulence, is the kind that comes from clouds. But in the winter, generally we have the more stable air masses, and we don't get that teeth jarring turbulence. And the other kind is high altitude, when we're in and around the jet stream, and we get that any time of the year. But typically the kinds of weather you have during the year, less likely to have turbulence that's going to be jarring, teeth jarring, and whatever. So anyway, we had anything else right there? We'll talk about the Boeing, that update on the Boeing.
I think let's move to the Boeing updates. So
who knew, Eric, you needed to put bolts in parts on airplanes, right?
And it's only 4, and everybody's a critic.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say right now, my heart went out my heart went out anyway, because I'm an empathetic person, to Alaska and the people and everybody there. But when they had those pressurization faults, the mechanics rightly were looking real hard at the multiple pressurization controllers to see if anything was wrong, and they're looking at that, and the system's functioning fine, and they can't find a squawk on it, and they looked at it repeatedly, and they go, well, sure. I mean, why would you figure there's a problem with a pressurization? Because a part of the airplane isn't attached or attached the way it's supposed to be. So I give them a complete pass on that. This is a very freakish incident.
Yeah, and we talk about that, you know, when it's not, you know, you see all the dials and gauges and the lights and stuff in the cockpit, and we do have some very specific warning lights that come up, like a fire or an overheat in an engine. That you don't have to think about that one too long, okay? But when we have a simple engine failure, or you know, it isn't like it quits 100%, and you get a on a TV screen, it comes up, says you have lost your number one engine. No, it takes analysis, and we look for trends and things like that. That's in joking. That's what we get paid the big bucks for, and it's a complex process up there. And so some of you may want to just, you know, maybe we need to go back to a basics class with Eric and I, just talking about what it's like to troubleshoot something up there. But the overall thing that I always remember is, in my career, I never, ever, ever had an engine failure on a commercial airliner. I had a couple where we precautionarily shut an engine down when I was in the military, but never have I had one like that. Eric,
one that we did not shut down, but pulled it back to idle, and
Okay.
so still had all the benefit of the electrical power generation, pressurization assistance,
Yep.
hydraulics. We were getting everything that engine supplies except for thrust.
Yeah.
And it was just fine. And once we trimmed the airplane, it was like flying the airplane with a little less power.
And we call that an irregular operation. You know, we don't call it emergency necessarily. We will declare an emergency typically, so that we have the benefit of all the crash equipment, and we interrupt the fire department basketball game or whatever they're out there doing. But from our point of view, it's only to let people know, and we get traffic priority then, so that they don't inadvertently park us behind another couple of airplanes, not knowing that something's wrong. So anyway. Yeah, so what Boeing found was that at first they were criticizing the subcontractor, Spirit, whatever the name of that company was, and then they found that this came up there, they installed it, and then they did some work beyond that, and it fell out of the system, and they didn't put the bolts back in the way they were supposed to.
Yeah, exactly what you said. They had to remove those bolts for access to something else.
Yeah.
That they were
Yeah.
working on in or near the panel, and then they didn't go back in.
Yeah. Now, this isn't an operational consideration that we would be weighing here, but how many flights? Do you have any idea how many flights that thing flew? It flew a number of flights, right?
Yeah, quite a number. I don't know.
And when you look at the details of the door, again, the bolts are important, but the way that they put the door in, that plug into that thing, it is self-locking of sorts. And so it's incredible how long they operated that airplane before it did become a problem.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of good luck, a lot of things.
Oh,
Anyway, and you could bet that will not happen again. So
have that not only land in a school teacher's backyard, but as Flight Attendant Diane joked earlier today, well, luckily it was a physics teacher, and he knew this was important. If it was an art teacher, and the art teacher said, "Oh, I know exactly where I can position this thing," that was very important to have that recovery.
And fortunately, they weren't out there in the yard or a pet or something like that. That would have been a whole different set of consequences. So anyway, all right. We want to thank Sumi again, beyond above and beyond, for coming on and sharing her experience there. I want to thank Eric for adding his expertise, and as well Dieter and the coordination and keeping things together while Ron realizes that his sound. If I was on an airplane, we'd have better warning systems than that. We'd have a warning light come on and said, "Hey, nobody's hearing you, dude." So anyway, we want to thank everybody, all of you out there, for coming back week to week, and that'll take us out of the latest version or episode of Clear for Takeoff Live, and we'll see you again next week. And don't forget about the upcoming coaching webinar. Okay.
And Gary, I'm proud of you. Do you guys remember Gary from the Air Hollywood, Oliver's friend? So he's going to be out there.
Oh yeah. And Oliver's flying with us again.
Oliver's coming with Gary.
Yep. So
Yep.
That'll be a lot of fun. So anybody who is in the LA area and wants to fly with Captain Ron and Captain Eric, I put the link in the chat, and it'll be a lot of fun. So
Diane's definitely going too.
If you catch Eric sleeping, he's going to give you $100.
Ah!
Not that often. I don't.
Right.
The threat is I don't know if I can stay awake. So
I know. Yeah, that'd be a safe bet. So anyway. All right. See you next